And so I'd like to introduce our presenter for today. We'll be hearing from ResultsPositive CEO, Mr. John Furner, as he explores how we can manage, control, rationalize, and right-size our application technology portfolios. And with that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to John.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today, and we have the great pleasure today to have Mark Bodman, the Senior Product Manager with ServiceNow, to join us today and participate. So I'd like to welcome Mark to our webinar today and appreciate his time today. We also appreciate our strategic partnership with ServiceNow. So I wanted to provide a brief kind of agenda for our webinar today, and then we'll jump right in. So first we'll do just a brief introduction. So I'll have Mark introduce himself. I'll complete my introduction, provide a brief introduction to ResultsPositive, and then we'll follow the agenda here. As Sean mentioned, we're going to highlight how you can accelerate your digital transformation efforts with ServiceNow's application portfolio management solution. Then we'll have an opportunity to talk about some portfolio management best practices. Then we'll turn it over to Mark to provide an overview of the ServiceNow solution. And then I might provide us a brief demo based on time that we have, and then provide some APM starting points for customers and some of our services that we can help you accelerate your implementation of application portfolio management. So that's our agenda today. And as Sean mentioned, I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today. In terms of my personal introduction, I've been helping organizations manage IT and manage their application investments for over 20 years, and led multiple application transformation initiatives as well. In terms of introductions to ResultsPositive, we specialize in helping customers really optimize the value associated with their application technology and software investments. We do that by providing impactful right-sized solutions and services to meet overall business outcomes. And we do that through various consulting services, from advisory, roadmap services, which we'll highlight today, as well as our implementation and application development services. In terms of the areas that we focused in on, technology business management is our core focus area, and that includes IT strategy, IT governance, also application portfolio management, which we'll be talking about today, as well as project portfolio management. So we'd like to welcome everyone to our session today. As you can see here, some of our customer examples. We've actually been working with over 300 customers over the last 14 years. So without any further ado, Mark, I'll turn it over to you for a second to provide a brief introduction. I know you're a senior product manager with ServiceNow, but I know that you have some great industry positions as well in this space. So Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing, John. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been in the enterprise architecture space for, gosh, about 15 years. My background, I implemented APM as an EA at Dell Computers here in Austin, Texas. And since then, I've kind of grown to kind of focus on that enterprise level planning activities. Spent about 4 years when I first got to know John while I was with HP as a strategist. And I'm also been elected recently to the IT for IT forum as a chair, and it looks like I'll probably be up for re-election this year. So thanks for having me here. I've been with ServiceNow for about 2 years, and really evolving APM and also getting engaged with partners like ResultsPositive to really get the ball rolling with our customer base. So thank you, and I think you'll have a pleasant experience with ResultsPositive.
Thanks so much, Mark. So what I wanted to jump right in here is actually begin with the end in mind and really kind of hit the objectives of our webinar here in the beginning, and then we'll jump into the details. So as we mentioned here in terms of webinar, it's all about accelerating your digital transformation strategies and programs with application portfolio management. And we see this as definitely an area that really will drive tangible business outcomes. And a key planning function, strategic planning function required to help accelerate your digital transformation initiatives. So first it starts off with the strategy. So we kind of recommend making sure that we understand and that the organization understands the overall digital transformation strategy. Whether you're a retail bank and your strategy is to move away from actual retail office locations, moving to mobile, moving to online banking, need to understand those strategies are really key. Then from looking at those strategies, need to understanding the capabilities. So what existing capabilities do we need to support those strategies? Are there any new capabilities? Are there any capabilities that need to be enhanced or are altered? Next, we need to look at the overall business processes. So are there going to be new processes or altered processes to really align and support the strategy of digital transformation? And then next, are there different channels, different mechanisms by which products and services will be shared and provided access to from customers, as well as suppliers. So it's not only on the front-end customer side, but also on the supplier side. And so once understanding those capabilities, that would then identify an opportunity to assess and make sure that you can define the right technologies to support those capabilities, those processes, and those channels. Some of those different technologies could just be various software technologies, hardware technologies, or they might be overall new platforms such as mobile, Internet of Things. Could be new different technologies that you need to apply to change and transform your organization. I know recently in talking with Panera as an example, they dramatically increased their overall revenue when it comes to digital. You've probably seen the various kiosks and such when you walk into Panera Bread location, as well as looking at cloud and on-premise. And so once you have an understanding of your technology roadmap and the core technologies that you plan to use to meet your overall digital transformation, then you can use that to assess and rationalize your current application portfolio, identifying those opportunities whereby you can enhance your current applications, build those new mobile applications, new online banking, new digital kiosks. As a result of that, creating that overall application roadmap. And then we see organizations as they're doing that, they're really driving a significant business growth, or they're also shifting revenue streams from traditional methods to digital methods. We're seeing that every year here at the holiday time of the year, where more and more actual holiday purchases are going online on the internet, as an example, as well as more and more of that is coming through mobile. That requires organizations to make sure they have the technologies and the applications to support those channels. Next, it's really important to maintain market share. We see that by having the right applications aligned with your technologies and your capabilities will help ensure your market share, but also help to increase your market share as you become a leader in different channels to market. Next, we always see the opportunity here, associated cost savings. So continually looking for ways to rationalize and really kind of reduce and retire those redundant applications. So those applications are no longer needed that don't support digital transformation. And those provide those actual tangible cost savings, which you can then reinvest in these new platforms, these new applications and new technologies. So this is kind of what we see as how you can use application portfolio management very effectively from a strategic perspective to help accelerate digital transformation. Mark, I'm just going to reach out and maybe ask you a question. Are you seeing the usage of APM to help your customers in accelerating their digital transformation? Anything you'd like to add in terms of on this topic?
There are quite a few organizations that really don't understand their applications, and they don't understand, the totality of the changes needed to transform into a digital company, a digital organization. So this is kind of core for that planning activity. If you don't know what your applications are, how they're structured, what they're doing, you really can't move forward very effectively. So this is core.
Thank you, Mark. Next, I wanted to jump in and provide some overview of some application portfolio management practices. Those of you that attended our previous webinar, I kind of highlighted this practice here at a high level. I'm going to jump into a few additional layers in terms of portfolio management best practices. But upfront, part of the core function is first establishing that visibility and establishing that inventory. But not only just an inventory of applications, but looking at those applications across different dimensions, such as cost and value and associated risk that is applied to those applications. We also see it really looking at other attributes, whether it be regulatory compliance, whether it be alignment to business capabilities and business processes. There's a lot of value in making sure that you have a healthy inventory, but also that you have a broad set of attributes for those applications, so that when you're faced with that digital transformation and you need to look for your current application portfolio, what supports mobile, what supports IoT, what supports these different channels, you can quickly filter and view and assess your current portfolio as you're making those planning decisions. Next, there's the initial upfront rationalization for organizations that haven't went through this process first. And then really there's the ongoing process of rationalizing your applications. And this is really accomplished by maintaining and keeping your application inventory up to date. And that can be a challenge. However, using the ServiceNow solution, you can continually assess and survey your business owners, your application owners, your technology owners, so that you can certify and validate the information related to your application portfolio. Thereby, you can drive those business and technology decisions off of accurate information. And then it's also important to understand that once you have this inventory, it's been certified, that can really help support and accelerate various business events that will occur, such as mergers and acquisitions, divestitures, changing in your overall strategy as well. We see a big need, and there's always typically a large business case when it comes to mergers and acquisitions and divestitures. As those organizations come together, they typically have duplicate systems, applications, and technologies, and so part of that business case is to apply effective application rationalization. So at a high level, those are the core components in terms of managing your application portfolio on an ongoing basis. So overall, in summary, when we look at that, it's a function of continually assessing or initially assessing your applications, having mechanisms to continually assess those, make sure the inventory is accurate, then looking for ways to modernize your application portfolio, and then continually manage and monitor. How do we do this? So we assist customers in this process. Also, we see customers going through this process on an ongoing basis as well. First, there's the understanding and the discovery phase. So that can either be done from a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach, being able to understand your inventory, both from a contextual perspective around how does it align to the business and the business capabilities, to how does it align to the technologies and the architectures that we're deploying today. Next, there's the analysis and the rationalization. By having that portfolio, and more importantly, having that portfolio with the right application attributes, so you can assess your application, assess redundancies across capabilities and business processes, so that you can come up with those recommendations and rationalizations to transition from your current state to your future state. And then continually maintain an application roadmap and business cases to go through that transformation journey and continually to evolve and change your overall application portfolio. In terms of a little more information about that process, this is an ongoing process we see customers do today. This is also a service that we provide for organizations. So when we talk about top-down and bottom-up approach around application strategy and roadmap, what we see is from a top-down perspective, that's where we come in, and first we set up an overall framework by which you can classify and categorize your applications. From that, we set up and conduct various interviews allow for automated surveys using the survey capabilities of the ServiceNow platform, and that helps us come up with that initial inventory. In conjunction with that, or sometimes organizations already have, say, discovery and CMDB in place. That's another key value point, as well as a leverage point we see with the ServiceNow platform. So customers are using discovery, using CMDB, can have that bottoms-up view, and then apply their application mapping and analyze that versus the results of the top-down assessment. We typically see by doing the top-down and bottoms-up, that gives you more of a complete picture. You can then normalize and make sure you're not missing any of your applications. So once you have the information, you have your inventory, then you can start to analyze your overall portfolio, whether it be tying it to the business value and risk, whether it be looking at it from a strategy perspective. So in today's context, looking at how does it align to our digital strategies. Next, how does it align to those core capabilities? And then one thing that's really important and is really kind of tangible for organizations, looking at your cost, your total cost of ownership of your applications. As well as that analysis, we then come up with and provide customers with recommendations. So how to modernize, how to transform, how to enhance their current portfolio, how to disposition, how to consolidate, how to retire, and reduce that redundancy that you might have in your portfolio. As well as then looking for opportunities to have new applications, whether that be developed internally or purchased, and then ultimately having an overall plan and application roadmap. That way you can guide the ongoing investments with your applications. So this is kind of a core capability that we see organizations doing on an annual basis, but also this is a large program that we help organizations with when they don't have an understanding of their inventory and their overall roadmap today. So next I wanted to actually turn over the presentation to Mark. He'll provide a brief introduction into ServiceNow's application portfolio management.
So this is the, so as a senior product manager here at ServiceNow, I wanted to cover a little bit about APM. This is based on our London deployment. We have a release every 6 months. So we name the releases alphabetically based on cities. So London was our last release. The next one's going to be Madrid, and after that, New York. So we just keep going every 6 months. London was released about mid-year. If you're not familiar with ServiceNow, it's a platform, and a lot of folks don't realize that, but service management was just one of the applications built on the platform, which has a lot of functionality by itself. And we see a lot of folks that are actually just using the platform to develop their own applications, not only just using the applications we provide, but developing them because we have that single database built-in workflow. We have reporting built in, things like assets and surveys that are all native to the platform. So there's a lot right there. But when you look at the products that we've developed in all the different areas, we cover most of what you need to manage your IT organization. And one of the most compelling things for me as I got introduced to ServiceNow was that it was fairly certain that this is kind of like going from your, walking around with a camera and a GPS and a phone to a smartphone where everything's integrated and it's all part of one platform. So I think of ServiceNow kind of like what we've seen in the cell phone in the industry, and what we're able to now do because we've got all these integrated features versus trying to integrate our disparate technologies together. So you can kind of get a glimpse of everything we do, but we're going to be focusing mostly on IT business management, which is where APM actually lives down here on the left. When we think about APM from a corporate perspective, we look at 3 key areas: visibility, alignment, and velocity of our services and what we're providing as value to the business. And you can see there's quite a few things in the IT business management suite. There's, financial management, ideation, project portfolio management, test management, and of course APM, which is in the middle. So we have most of what it takes to kind of plan and deliver on your new services at any level, whether it be a transformation to digital or a very simple change, a simple story that you need to be able to get out from an agile perspective. The way I like planning process is kind of like this. It's a flow of information from left to right that's basically fed by what you currently have. And as John mentioned, we have a CMDB with current operational data within our platform, and most customers of APM already have something up and running, which is service management or ITOM, and they have a context of where to start, but they may not know what those applications are. So we start with the understanding the application portfolio, technologies, and the business portfolio that you currently have, and how that basically needs to change to support the strategies of your organization. Of course, that's mixed in with other ideas that come in or demands, but you got to prioritize what those demands are. And as a suite of applications, they're highly integrated. So when John mentioned an application roadmap, the roadmap is a function of the demands that are either short-term or long-term, 2-5 years out, and then the portfolio investments that would come along with realizing that roadmap. So as you fund those ideas and demands, they become real. You would execute against them either in an agile fashion or it's a more strategic program or project. You make the changes, and of course you release into production. So since our platform handles most of the different jobs required to do all this work, it becomes a very tight-knit process, and the workflows seamlessly integrate the information and the tasks necessary to delivering this entire process. Planning process, these are the different products that we license together in the ITBM suite. It's important to note that APM doesn't live on its own. You can't just buy APM, App Portfolio Management. It is part of this ITBM suite, and whether or not you use all the different products, that's really up to your maturity level, but what we're seeing is just these are blending together, just like your cell phone in your pocket. The camera is blended together with your email and the GPS, and everything sort of mixed together. So what we're seeing here in our platform and in the ITBM suite is these products are all fairly integrated. So for example, if you want to know the total cost of ownership for an application, we apply our IT financial model to calculate that. And likewise, we're able to pass on the application details to your demand process for financing those changes, and of course, agile teams. So that's kind of how the products work together to deliver on that flow here at ServiceNow in the ITBM suite. And we're really proud that we've made the Forrester Wave for Strategic Portfolio Management Tools recently. So this is really the first time that we got into a Forrester quadrant like this for our BU, and because of this integrated experience that we have and the maturity already out of the gate, we made a really good first showing here. So we're really proud of that. And the other thing that we wanted to also highlight is there's many different stakeholders involved in APM. The first and foremost would be the IT leadership, who's accountable for these applications and keeping the teams, staff to evolve or change those applications and keep them up to date. Enterprise architects, which are usually understanding the impact. If I have to make this transformation, what are the applications and underlying technologies that are associated with that? What are the capabilities that are changing? What are the technologies that are changing? Operations feeds into that quite a bit because they provide feedback on what's out there today. And the most important aspect are the application owners, is federating the ownership and keeping the information up to date, as John described. You know, these transformations, they occur ongoing. It's just not one and done. I used to call it the never-ending series of fire drills back when I was in IT, because we would, we wouldn't have all the application information. We would have to go out and reinvestigate, regather that information. But APM allows you to keep it up to date and leverage all these other functionalities in our platform to, such as ITOM, which gives you the discovered information, these or service management, understand how they're being consumed. All that kind of feeds into the process. So it alleviates the amount of work the owners have to do. They just have to make sure that you're on top of the logical context. And I just want to cover one more quick slide here, and I'll turn it back over to you there, John. But we look at the APM use cases, and the number one use case is really getting that app inventory up and running. Most organizations have a list, multiple lists of applications, but what we try to do is establish that first system of record and put it on the platform. And then from there, we need to implement processes to maintain the data on an ongoing basis. We have certification processes. You can certify the values are still correct and attest to that, so you have evidence that you've looked at this stuff. The other thing is we typically see customers not starting with APM. They already have IT service management. So you want to align your APM processes with your IT service management processes, which we recommend next. And of course, you want to map that to the infrastructure. So as you're making your planning changes, you understand the infrastructure impacts, and your IT operations folks are kept up to date with what's coming down the pike. Next is you want to really assess the capabilities, and John described it as a top-down, and many organizations would like to start there, but sometimes it's really hard because even if you get the top-down plan, you don't know the net impacts. So if we can provide that net impact and kind of come, I would say, bottoms up and top down and meet in the middle, this is kind of a key thing. So business capabilities, understanding how those align to your applications and the need to invest is critical. Next is understanding the underlying technologies and the risks associated with them. Most organizations are using technologies that are no longer supported or out of date. It's important to understand how those map to your applications and therefore affect your business. So focus on the areas of change that you need to make first and second and so forth based on your business priorities. And last but not least is you want to also keep the application healthy by continuously assessing and continuously evolving this process. So it's not a one and done sort of thing. You keep evolving your information model, your expertise. So you really want to keep your applications up and running at the best you can and as optimized as you can. Thank you very much. This is my portion. John, back over to you.
So Mark kind of provided us a brief introduction of the product and how it supports some of the different personas. I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the actual technology capabilities here at a high summary level. So it kind of alluded to the fact that you can strategically look at your business capabilities, plan those capabilities, and at the same time align those capabilities with your supporting business processes and technologies and applications. And so you have an ability to manage those hierarchy of capabilities, be able to continually assess those capabilities and align your overall applications. And so that's one of the core capabilities here with the solution. Next, we have the rationalization, as Mark mentioned, the ongoing assessment and certification. And so this is an opportunity to, number one, you can conduct those surveys to assess and continually update and keep the data accurate. Also, you can look at various moments in time to analyze and rationalize your applications. What's nice here with this capability is you get to select various criteria so that you can get a map of your different applications, and you can kind of look at those applications based on risk and value, but you can also look at those based upon your current recommended disposition, whether that's to maintain that application, to enhance, or to retire that application. As well as by doing that, you have a chance to then look at the current scoring based upon your recent assessments. So it gives you a bird's eye view when you say you wanted to search and look at all your applications for a particular capability, or if you wanted to look at applications and search based on cost and understand which are your most costly applications, what's the current status of our recent assessments to determine your ongoing investment in those applications. And so that's a core function here in the solution. One of the other major functions is really looking at your overall technology roadmap. So what you're able to do here is be able to select your various applications, but also be able to see the associated underlying technologies and see those technologies in terms of their roadmap or their overall life cycle. For example, when are some of those supporting technologies, whether it be the middleware technology or whether it be overall software or hardware, when are those technologies going to be end of life? And so that could impact and also identify opportunities to enhance your current applications if it's dependent upon those technologies. So it gives you that opportunity to make sure that you're continually assessing and planning your technology investments while understanding your current technology life cycle. It also helps enterprise architects with their ongoing planning It helps IT operations so that they understand when they need to do some technology refreshes based upon the end of life of various technologies. So that's kind of a high-level summary of the capabilities. There's plenty more capabilities here, but just from a time perspective, just wanted to highlight at a summary level some of the core capabilities. Mark, anything else that you'd like to highlight in just terms of core capabilities that I might have overlapped here, but I'm just trying to give a brief overview.
No, I think this is great. I think there's a lot in the product. I mean, I've been here 2 years now there, Don, and I keep discovering more capabilities in our platform that we can leverage, things like workflow or PA. So it makes the work of doing APM and planning so much easier every single release. And I'm not done. I mean, this is a platform that continues to evolve and get better with machine learning and AI, for example. And so you'll start to see a lot more automation in those kinds of regards. So a lot of this will be, the system will do more for you. It'll provide value and recommendations rather than you having to look for information and things to do. It'll help prioritize your work better in the future as well.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Another example here of how you can leverage the value of the platform and how you might be using other components on the ServiceNow platform. So we've talked a little bit about tying it into your service management. What's really important there, it helps you understand the actual application support costs. So when you think about it, that not only can I look at my applications, but I can look at all of my costs associated with the incident management or change management. So the number and volume of those requests, the effort it's taking to continually provide that bug fix as well as changes. At the same time, on the platform, I can look at our planned investments from a project perspective. So what are those enhancements that we're rolling out, or what are those new initiatives to re-platform our application or to provide a new mobile device for our application. And then on top of that, you can look at overall risk and compliance and link that into the governance, risk, and compliance solution and pull that in and have that type of analysis with your application as well. And then there's even the license and software management as well. That's one key area that we see with organizations when they're managing their applications is when do I need to renew? What's that investment look like? How do I manage that? How to make sure that we're optimizing the spend in that space? And so using the software asset management solution and the outputs there will feed right into managing your application. So you kind of get that full 360-degree view and be able to leverage the investments you've already made on the platform. So there's multiple benefits from an application portfolio management perspective. So you can see a few different examples here from customers leveraging the solution. Obviously, there's really hard, tangible savings around application portfolio management. Just when you look at, we're going to decommission various applications that are redundant. So the cost of those applications, just from a software technology perspective, the cost of application support of those particular applications, and the list goes on. So there's a lot of just tangible savings that you can achieve, as kind of mentioned here in terms of reducing overall cost. There's definitely ways that you can reduce your overall business risk. As I mentioned before, by having a complete and broad view of your application and associated attributes, which regulations that these applications are required to maintain and support, gives you the ability to quickly assess your risk and determine what enhancements are needed as those regulatory requirements change over time. And then up front here, aligned to those new technologies, as we're talking about today, how do I align to our new digital initiatives and make sure that we can really focus on supporting and delivering new digital capabilities. We see multiple best practices. There's the upfront enterprise planning, aligning with overall business capabilities. There's managing your application inventory, certifying that through ongoing assessments, but also being able to have that discovery and be able to do your mapping with those CIs all on the platform, and then being able to consistently assess and rationalize your applications. As Mark mentioned, that will continue to grow in terms of best practices on the platform with a lot of the business machine learning and overall artificial intelligence. So what we see in terms of starting points around application portfolio management, we see, and some of these have to do with just overall assessing your applications as well as actually implementing the technology. So we see large organizations that really don't have a good sense of all of their applications. We've come in and helped them with an overall application strategy and roadmap. So that's a function of going through that process we highlighted previously by helping them with discovery, top-down, bottom-up discovery, going through the process to analyze their portfolio and then identify those rationalization recommendations, and then an overall application roadmap which they can then manage. The output of this type of engagement would feed into your application portfolio management inventory in ServiceNow. Other starting points that we see, organizations have an inventory, but they feel that their inventory is inaccurate and out of date. So we can come in and assist organizations in understanding and developing that inventory. We typically start off with defining your application framework, your categorizations, your classifications. From there, from a top-down perspective, we focus on interviews and the surveys, and those surveys can be used out of the system, and then validating that through discovery, the CMDB and application mapping. Then from a core ServiceNow implementation perspective, we have our health checks. So these health checks can be a week long. We have a free version. We have our in-depth health checks as well. And so this is kind of reviewing your current tools and your current setup, providing you with recommendations and findings in an implementation roadmap. We also provide for the actual implementation of the solution. So that typically is a combination of a rapid start implementation as well as loading in your current inventory. And that can be simply done, say, if you have an Excel inventory of your application. So these are some of the core starting points that we see with organizations. The other thing that I would mention too that Mark mentioned is kind of the rationalization and aligning what you're using today, say in your service management function, and aligning that to the app portfolio management solution. So that typically occurs as well. So just in summary, I know I kind of mentioned this previously as a practice that organizations follow on an ongoing basis, but this is kind of a map to our application strategy and roadmap services. So this is typically a larger program across your enterprise. As I mentioned, we do have our health check assessments and roadmap. So in this case, we're highlighting our free health check assessment. So we would come in and conduct 3 different discovery sessions, question and answer sessions. We would walk through your current tool set. As a result of that, we would provide you with findings and recommendations and a roadmap and associated estimates for implementation. We do have our rapid start implementation packages as well. So we understand how important it is to get quick time to value. So we've got various packages that we can leverage. We can also tailor those to customer specific requirements. So Sean, I'd like to turn it back over to you for question and answers. And Mark and I look forward to answering any questions that anyone has attending the webinar today.
All right, awesome. So I appreciate everyone's attendance, and I want to give a special thanks to John and to Mark for the excellent overview of the product and services on offer today. I've gone ahead to open up the phone line, so if anyone has a particular question that they'd like to ask verbally themselves, they're welcome to do so at this point.
Hey, question for Mark. Hi, Mark. Great job, guys. Quick question for you. We know that the model is changing a bit in ServiceNow. I believe the business application object is being moved down from the APM level down into the core, and there's some other changes that are going on. Is there anything that you can say about that that would help us with our implementation?
Yeah, I would say what we're trying to do here at ServiceNow is move more of the core model into the platform that comes out of the box. Some of that is like any of the CI types that you have. Business applications is a configuration item, which shouldn't scare you as an EA. What it really just means is that we have management to change those things, right? And they have impact to the organization. So business capabilities and business applications are part of the CMDB. In the releases up through Kingston, they were not available out of the box. Okay, so as of the Kingston release and going forward, they're now out of the box. And what that means is that when you install the platform, even without APM, you'll have the business application CI there. You won't have a lot of the visualizations and the ability to do the assessments and all that. But you can build your own. And what this alleviates is customers that are maybe wanting to put the applications in the system, just to copy them over from what they already have, and don't have to recopy them over when they get APM. So that's going to be the alleviation of that problem that we've seen with our customer base. I don't know if that answers all your question there, Scott, but that's pretty much the direction, our strategic direction, is to make sure that folks can at least use the model without having to buy each product, and when they do the buy of the product, and
Good, thank you, Mark.